know you're nervous for the Rams, but you got to be a little enthusiastic after being there.
Bro, that game atmosphere was ridiculous. The energy, the electricity. That place was rocking. Anyone was there, and a lot of the Super Buck fans were there too. Mean Buck.
Tampa Tones. We are joined by lead goon tonight, host of the Pat and Aaron Show of WDAE, Pat Donovan. And it sounds like Stunna is bumbling a little bit. Going to put him on mute for a second until that gets a little cleared. But we're joined by Pat Donovan.
It looks like Stunna's hanging out with Cheech and Chong in a car with the windows up or something over there.
It does look like we got a little...
No, my camera's broke.
Howdy, ho, howdy, hey, how the hell are you? Happy Combine weekend. One of the better weekends of the offseason of the NFL offseason. It is the 2024 offseason, and we're getting into the thick of things here, and things are getting interesting out on the high seas here in the Tampa Bay area. A lot of young Bucs fans melting down, not quite understanding what time of year it is, smokescreen season, agents speak, and all that type of stuff. We'll get into that and the Mike Evans rumors. Some might be wondering what the hell's going on. We'll get into it. Nothing to be alarmed of. Just typical Bucs talk, typical agent speak. And we got an NFL Combine to cut into as well. We're in the heart of the Combine. We're on Saturday. Of course, if you guys caught our latest episode, which aired on Tuesday this past week, we talked about the Combine, the schedule of that Combine, and all that stuff to prep you for when things take place. Now, today is one of the most exciting Combine days of the year. We got quarterbacks, we got running backs, we got wide receivers. We got the Bucs who have met with 4 quarterbacks at the Combine. Things are getting spicy in the QB room as well, and we got so much more to talk about, discuss here on the Buccaneers. It's going to be a really fun one here, and it looks like I got the man, the myth, the legend himself, the great J-Lo in the building with the millions and millions and millions tuned in to talk some Bucs ball on this Saturday. Obviously, Tampa Tones here. A couple Buccaneers out of the building. We'll see if we could get them in along the way. But nonetheless, J-Lo, happy Saturday. Happy weekend, brother. Happy to have you here. We got a lot to get to today. NFL Combine weekend is here. Mike Evans rumors are swirling, brother. Ooh, interesting time to be on Twitter if you're a Bucs fan. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you wake up to some wonderful tweet like that, you can't really fall for that. You know, obviously he wants to be paid. He wants to play with the lead quarterback, blah, blah, blah. We got a whole nother week, you know, until free agency starts. I'm not letting it sweat in one bit.
Yeah, and you know a lot of Bucs fans, not to be. A lot are younger. A lot are Brady-era Bucs fans. So a lot, I'd say, are born probably post-2000. Put them at the age 23, 24 or younger. So a lot of these cats, not to push pressure on him, not to call him out, but they believe these things. They believe in the hype. They believe in you know, statements that may be taken out of the ordinary a little bit. And I can't blame him. I was like that when I was growing up too, right? You're 13, 14, 15 years old. You hear some rumors. You really buy into them. You really believe them. You play Madden. That really gets your head spinning because it makes you think anything's possible when you play the game of Madden. So I can't blame our young fans, but we're going to tell you why there's absolutely zero reason to be worried about the Mike Evans situation here in a little bit. Is our guy Grizz comments. Fellas, what's up, Grizz? How the hell you doing, brother? Welcome in on this Saturday morning. Welcome into the Buccaneers with J-Lo and Tampa Tones. J-Lo, first and foremost, I just want to ask you quick. We're only going to talk about it briefly, but I did make an appearance on good friend of the program, J.C. Allen's Pirate Parlay podcast. We talked all things Bucs. We talked free agency. We talked Combine. We talked NFL Draft. Obviously, Shaq Barrett's release, which we were able to talk about as well the other day on our show. Thoughts on that over there? Anything catch your eyes that we talked about on the Pirate Parlay podcast with the great J.C. Allen from Sports Illustrated? Is, hey, speak of the devil. Sup, fellas? JC just happens to say what's up as we're talking about his pod. But anything stick out to you from that show? Anything we talked about that you want to briefly go over from the Pirate Parlay podcast that did release on Thursday?
It was a great show. I mean, you guys pretty much put everything in perspective on the plan and all that. Saying a lot of positive things that could happen. He's got a great show over there in Pirates Parlay. And shout out to you for being on the show, crushing it as usual when it comes to potting. And like I said, I mean, it's just fun talking about football on another show.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was a great honor. If you guys missed it, I'll put the link in our description and bio as well. I happen to be a guest on JC Allen's Pirate Parlay podcast. Episode dropped Thursday. It's part of the Sick Media Network. They do a lot of great things. Adam Rank from NFL Network does their Bears podcast. The great JC Allen does their Bucks podcast. And they really almost have one for all NFL teams at this point, if not all, almost all. But really good stuff. Great network, great intros, great guests. JC has had Dave Canales on his pod when he was our OC. He's had Shaq Barrett. He's had multiple of big-time guys. I think Logan Hall was on it as well, just to name a few. So check it out, Pirate Parlay Podcast. Type it in anywhere you can find it. The great JC Allen does a great job over there, and I was lucky enough to be on the last one. And one thing that was eye-opening to me that we talked about on there, and we pretty much put it into light, although Shaq Barrett got released, it's not out of the realm he could be back. And J-Lo, quick thoughts on that before we get to a couple more comments. What odds would you put it at Shaq would be back? Now, I said 50-50 on JC's show, but my point is if free agency falls apart, which might have a 50% chance of happening because Shaq's a veteran, he's going to be looking to win at this point. He's not going to get that big payday he once might have gotten like he did with the Bucs, but he's going to be looking to win. He won a Super Bowl in Denver. He won a Super Bowl in Tampa. Whether it's back in the Bay or somewhere else, J-Lo, I could see a path, not a huge path, but I'd say 50% chance, might be a little optimistic, but I'll put it at that. There is a path for Shaq Barrett to come back and play with the Bucs in 2024.
It's a very good path. I mean, he's going to have a lot of competition in the free agent market because there are a lot of edge rushers, especially some of the top elite ones are going to get big paydays. But there's also veterans like him that are out there looking for jobs and stuff like that. And the one thing I will say, his wife really enjoyed being here. She said nothing great things about the Butts in a Twitter post, I believe. And I feel that he's going to probably weigh his options. He'll probably get some offers, maybe not big offers or maybe elite teams, but
I'm thinking like 1 year, at the most, like 1 year, 8 or 9 million with like incentives built in. That's how he gets to that 8 to 10. But I agree with you. That's where I think his ceiling is.
Oh yeah, no, like I said, if he would have come back, I'm pretty sure lighting the front office will work something out to give him a pretty decent payday. As far as working with the youth, I think we'll draft an edge rusher or pick up another one. You can never have enough edge pass rushers because it's football. Players get injured. But I would love to have him back, and I think he would. I think he would totally consider it because he loves Bulls. He loves the city. He's pretty much established here. He just had a baby recently. Congrats to him on that.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and that having the baby has to help do two things. A, patches home in the 813. When you have a newborn, you're a dad yourself. I'm sure you would agree, J-Lo. When you have a baby, the last thing you want to do is say, all right, let's move, let's pack, let's go across, maybe across the U.S., maybe up north, who the hell knows where. So that would be a big thing within itself. And then, J-Lo, obviously the tragedies that faced last offseason, as we get to a quick comment from Lucky Lucy. Happy Saturday, Lucky Lucy, and thanks for joining J-Lo and myself here on the Buccaneers. That's a lot of love. Got a couple other good comments from people we'll get to in a minute. But another thing, J-Lo, when you have a kid, right after you lose a kid tragically, and JC Allen might be making an appearance on the show here briefly, but when you have a kid after losing a kid tragically, J-Lo, that roots some ties together as well, and the Bucs really helped Shaq through some tough times. And if Shaq does come back, say he gets only that 1 year, $8.5, $9 million offer, say from a team like Carolina, or say from a team like New England, who might be a little bit away from winning still, I think that's where maybe he'll circle back to the Bucs post June 1st cap release and say, hey, I might come back for 1 year, $4 million if you build in the right contract incentives.
Agreed. And plus, familiarity. He's familiar with the coaching staff as well. Would he really want to go to a team like New England? I don't know, go across the country, going to Vegas or something like that, and start over. The new coaching staff. That's just a lot to put on. I'm not saying he can't handle it. I mean, he's a strong person, but I just don't see him going to a Super Bowl contending team unless he sits out in the middle of the season like JPP did a couple of years ago. It just all depends on the right situation. And I still think he can play at a pretty good level as far as motivating the players, or leading the locker room. And he's very confident. He's a very confident person. That's another thing I give Shaq Barrett credit for.
And that's one of the things that people love about Shaq. One of many things is he's a great guy, great person, great confidence. He'll tell it like it is. The day after the Bucks lost the day after the Bucks lost to Detroit to end their year, I should say. Shaq Barrett had a real conversation with Tampa media. Obviously, you get media access day after, and he pretty much said, hey, I understand it's a business. I understand what I'm making, and I understand where my production was at. So Shaq keeps it real. Speaking of keeping it real, Cleveland Me says, can't wait for J-Lo to be in the Shy in April. I think we have something in the works where if you guys are Buccaneers fans by now, you guys know. Day 3 of the NFL draft, that's our day where we go all in. We do our draft coverage. Day 1 and 2 are great, but there's already so many good products out there for day 1 and day 2, and we really love to kick back, relax, and get our draft coverage on. You'll see me be tweeting, like last year, we drafted Kancey. I immediately started diving into film. I was tweeting that night some plays, highlights that I liked of Kancey, so we'll be doing that sort of thing. But hopefully, and we were going to hide it a little bit, but we let the cat out of the bag. Joey did, so we'll go ahead and spit it out there right now. We may be doing a live Saturday extravaganza show for day 3 of the NFL draft, including J-Lo and me here in the Chicagoland area. Might get guest appearances such as Joe from Cleveland Me, who might be giving Colts insight, AFC insight, and maybe some other guests that day as well. One of our favorite days of the year for the Buccaneers is that draft day, is day 3 of the NFL draft. So, J-Lo, if you do make it, going to be a real fun day, brother, and we take that seriously. I think the past 2 years on the third day of the draft, we've been on for about 2 hours each day or so. So, hey, when other pods start winding down, we wind up, and now you might be front and center right here riding shotgun with me in April to kind of experience that whole thing in person.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I already booked the flight. I'm excited to go. I'm excited to come. Like I said, be on the show, talk Buck football, introduce the new Buck players that are coming to the team. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Me, you, Joe Pops watching the first round of the draft that Thursday.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, that's going to be fun experience. Opinions are going to come in, and stuff. We'll see what we can agree to disagree when it comes to the players getting drafted. And that's going to be a fun time, especially for people.
Go on, J-Lo.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
No, go on.
No, I'm saying, especially for the people that are really into the draft, and stuff like that. I know there's a lot of draft people that like to watch it, watch all the highlights, get their opinions. It's gonna be a lot of fun, tune in.
It's a great Corey Hayes is chiming in on Facebook, tuned in on Facebook. Thank you, Corey Hayes. We love you, brother. Thanks for showing us some support. But yeah, gonna be real fun. And I did a pod 1 year on day 1. I was the guest on Big Rican. You remember Mike Martinez from Big Rican on Sports, Baker Mayfield enthusiast. He joined us actually in our pregame show for Bucks Lion, great friend of the show's. I was on his day 1 of the NFL draft, and I was kind of watching the draft, reporting on it, and it's fun doing it, but it's a lot of work. You got to really get yourself in the mentality of, hey, I'm not going to be able to enjoy the draft too much. I'm going to be on my – so that's why we do day 3, and by the time day 3 comes, a lot of people don't know some of the foes or fellas that are getting drafted or the reasons why. So we'll be here on day 3 of the NFL draft to break that all down. Hell, that's still – months away, but going to be great. J-Lo will be live in the studio We're going to get a 6 set up that day. We're going to do a lot of giveaways that day, a lot of raffles, a lot of prizes that day as well. So really going to be a fun one. Mark your calendars late in April, day 3 NFL draft. You won't want to miss it. Then I think the next day we're going to be catching a Rays White Sox game, so that should be fun. Anyways, we'll catch you all up on our itinerary as it nears. But Grizz says Bucks have a great foundation, and they can go in so many directions, even in the unlikely event Baker and Mike both leave. I think the future would be bright. J-Lo, before we get your reactions to this, I just want to say, as we get a new subscriber on YouTube, we appreciate it. The great Christopher Counts just subscribe. But remember to subscribe to us if you are watching. Please, please, please hit that like button. And remember to turn that lovely notification bell on so you can be notified anytime the great J-Lo, myself, Gene from Buck What You Heard, or any of the others go live here. But J-Lo, thoughts on that? The direction the Bucks could take. We've seen the combine, a couple days worth of it so far. So not to dig too deep, as that's going to be our main focus here shortly. But kind of thoughts on the direction the Bucks could potentially or possibly go in.
I mean, he has some value points. To me, if they were to walk out, I mean, it'll make the offseason even more fun to watch, and see what what's
I don't know about fun, but more intriguing, right?
Yeah, more intriguing. That's a better term.
Because I don't think that'd be too fun.
Well, the Mike leavings are probably going to hit me and a few Bucks fans the most if that were to happen. But
Which it won't.
And just remember, there'll be a lot of cap space we'll have. We'll have more money to really go out there and go get an elite, player or two, depending on the situation. But I just don't see Baker leaving. Look at what's all been done the last couple of months after the season ended. We end up getting a whole new coaching staff that's going to be built around Baker. I mean, I don't think Liam Cohen would just come here to go find another quarterback. I think he came here.
And he's popping out a little squirt as well.
Yeah, I mean, he is. I mean, him and Baker are like this. They're besties. If you watch the video the Bucks posted, it shows that they're building continuity to keep Baker happy and keep him here. Now, as far as Mike goes, I don't really know what direction he really wants to go. I mean, his agent's saying one thing, but we're not really hearing what Mike has to really say.
Agent talk, right? Agent talk, we think, is J-Lo is we'll get J-Lo back here. I think he just froze up here for a minute. But kind of to rebuttal off what J-Lo said, Mike's agent put something out this morning. Hey, we're looking to try and win a Super Bowl. We want a good QB on the roster. We want to make X amount of money. Pretty much what that tells me is he's telling his guys, hey, I want Baker back in Tampa. I want this certain amount of dollars. It's agent speak, and we see it every year, every offseason, and that's why I was alluding to the younger Bucks fans earlier in the pod maybe freaking out a little bit more than the veteran Bucks fans, because we've seen this year in and year out with Mike Evans at this point. We saw it not with Mike Evans, but with players in Tampa at this point. We saw it with Lenny F. Remember, we were letting Lenny F test the market, and everybody was freaking out. Oh, my God, Lenny F. He's getting interviews, this and that. Where did he end up? Back in Tampa. Jamel Dean. It was rumored that he was testing the market. That became true. The Raiders were rumored to offer him potentially up to $18 million a year. Where did Jamel Dean end up? Back in Tampa. Carlton Davis, he got to go test the market. Where did he end up? Back in Tampa. Levante David went to go test the market. Remember, everybody was saying, oh, Dolphins. He's going to surely be a Dolphin. Where the hell did he end up? Back in Tampa. In another scenario, Ryan Jensen round 2 when he was a free agent. Everybody was uncertain. Is Brady here? Is he gone? Bengals are going to offer him the bag. Bears are going to offer him the bag. They both did. Where did he end up? Back in Tampa. So, J-Lo, we're going to get to some other comments here before we get to the Mike Evans comments. But pretty much I picked up where you left off. You were saying Mike Evans' agent. I was just saying how it's a lot of agent speak going on, a lot of smoke and mirrors. I mean, how the hell could everyone say, oh, one day the Texans are interested, then suddenly today they're not? I don't believe that either. I think the Texans are still big players as well. But we're going to get to a couple more comments before we dig back into the Mike Evans drama. I like Shaq, but couldn't Ramirez and Watts give similar production as him in 2023 at this juncture if given snaps? Grizz, that's an interesting comment. And the thing about that with Shaq Barrett is we got to remember last year he was coming off a very brutal leg injury, right? When you tear something like that and you come back that quick, I mean, many thought Shaq would miss a couple games last season to begin the year. He missed none. So Shaq was not at 100% last year. You know he'll get a little bit more healthy this year. You know he'll get a little bit more productive this year. Will it be the Shaq in his prime, 2019, 2020, 2021 Shaq? Probably not, but I expect a little bit more production for the dollar sign in 2024, given that he is back another year after his injury, J-Lo. We usually see guys who come back the year after a big injury, don't have the best of years, but it's a year after that year where they come back to themselves a little bit more, grow into their own a little bit. Do you see that happening with Shaq potentially?
Absolutely. I mean, just the fact that he was ready by training camp was very surprising to me because torn Achilles don't really heal overnight. It takes a long process, especially at his age. I believe he's over 31, almost 32 years old, and you're not going to get the same production you got out of him in 2019. But he does show some flashes to where when it's
Yep, he'll
time.
be 32 in November.
Okay. Yeah, he'll be 32, but he can still show some flashes on teaching these young Buck players on how to, be productive. It'll be a home run for Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez, I believe that's his name. Jose Ramirez,
Mm-hmm.
and then Watts as well. They can also develop, and plus you got Nelly for another year. Another veteran at this point. That can help work with these young guys. And of course, Yaya Diaby's already have a starting spot. And JTS, good role player. I mean, you can never have enough pass rush, especially an experienced one who's been there and knows how to win.
Yeah, and there's a couple interesting things Greg Allman is putting out. Cleveland Me says draft. Yep, draft. We're looking forward to that when J-Lo does come to town. And Christopher Cole says 100. Once again, thanks to Christopher Cole for subbing to the program. Greg Allman says, and this is well known, but Tuesday at 4 p.m. is the deadline for NFL teams to use a franchise tag or transition tag, J-Lo. And before we get the great JC Allen here, I just want to get your thoughts. You think the Bucs use a tag, J-Lo, by Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern?
I hope not, but yes. Obviously, they're going to have to tag Winfield. There's no way they can let him hit the market at all. He would be the one I'd be scared of losing as far as somebody getting into the free agent market. But most likely, I said that we'll use the tag. I'm hoping by some miracle Light pulls off a deal, but I just don't think he can get everybody back at once. I think the main focus is Baker Mayfield, so they'll have to tag Antoine Winfield Jr.
As we get the great JC Allen in now, you guys might know JC from a couple of great places, formerly at Pewter Report, now writing for SI Game Day Buccaneers, does a great job over there, powered by Sports Illustrated, the Game Day division of that. And as we talked about earlier, has an incredible Bucks podcast for the Sick Podcast Network. They do a great job over there. You got guys like JC Allen, Adam Rank, so many more great individuals over there. So JC is in the heart of Bucks land and the heart of Bucks news, rumors, and more. JC, how the hell are you, brother? Thanks for joining us on this Boots to Asses Saturday. Fight, JC, fight. How we doing, brother?
Good morning, fellas. Or good afternoon, I should say. At this point, I woke up late, so it still feels like morning to me. But I'm doing well. Just kind of going through some stuff here, getting ready for the Saturday, the combine with quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers running and doing their drills. So excited for that. Currently putting together my my preview for some of the free agent options that the Bucks could look at on the offensive line. If you haven't checked that out, I've started a series there. I did a series of the offseason outlook at each position. Now I'm going through each position and saying, if they need to make a move or if they don't re-sign XYZ, who could they bring in? So tight ends came out today. Offensive line will come out tomorrow, and so on and so on. And at the same time, I'm working on my mock offseason. So who the Bucs are going to re-sign, what trades could they make, who are they going to cut, who are they going to extend, who could they sign in free agency, then, ultimately who will they draft in the draft. So working on that, loving the way it's turning out right now. Hopefully you guys will too. But other than that, just a lazy Saturday for me right now. Till a little bit later, then we'll hit the town. We'll get a nice dinner, maybe go for like a walk or something like that. Who knows? What's going on with you guys?
As Pops from Twitter says, JC is a man. A lot of JC love here. And JC, real quick, we do have a thing from Cleve and me, and we kind of talked about it a little bit on your show, who we would go with in round one, but we'll see if that stayed the same with your off season. Because you dig in. So you said lazy Saturday. It's like, oh, I got this to do. I'm working on this. I got
It's
that.
not lazy, but I'm still, lounging. So
you're like a surgeon when it comes to covering the Bucs. I just want to get your thoughts, and if J-Lo and I sound ignorant at all, we kind of said this Mike Evans stuff was expected. It's still agent speak, a lot to be had there. And really, it's the time of year for smoke and mirrors. So when we were on your show, we kind of both said, hey, there's a very good chance both of these guys are back. Do you think anything has changed regarding Mike Evans the past couple of days and these rumors? Again, I think this is pretty much expected. The Bucs and Mike, if they weren't going to get a contract done in the days leading up to the franchise tag deadline, not that they'd franchise him at all, that's not what I'm saying, but there's deadlines, soft deadlines to be met. Bucs never hit those. Do you think Mike Evans' status has changed at all, or do you still see him in the Bucs uniform and too many young kids freaking out there like J-Lo and I are saying?
Yeah, I think this is purely a move by the agent to kind of force the Bucs' hand if they, they're not going to come to a deal, obviously, prior to free agency. I know they've been talking and trying to hammer one out. Maybe they're far apart off, but I honestly think that this is the move here to kind of drum up some more interest and just be like, hey, Mike Evans is going to test the market. So if you were expecting him to sign with Tampa Bay prior to, he's not. So get your best offers ready because he's ready to listen. He wants to play for a contender. So if you're not a contender, shut up. Don't even come here. If you don't have a good quarterback in place, or if it's a rookie, or if it's a second-year guy, like, the Titans, who I've heard some Titans fans, kind of clamor for him. He's not going to play Will Levis. Obviously, the Texans said they are out. That could be smoke and mirrors, but I truly think they are realistically out. They've got a good young talented wide receiver core. I don't think they're going to be a play there. So I think this is just the agent trying to say, hey, if you weren't expecting him, he's coming. I still don't think he finds the market he's looking for. I don't think he finds the money he's looking for. There will be people after his services. I guarantee there will be. But at the rate that they're looking for, that $25 to $28 million a year, I think, someone from Loose Cannons threw out that he's going to get $31 million. It's not happening. I don't think he comes in at 25. I think it's under that. We've seen this the past 3 years. I heard you allude to it with Levante, with Carlton, with Jamel. I know Jamel left money on the table, but routinely these guys think that they're worth X and they're really worth Y, and they come back and they sign for Z. And I think Mike ultimately falls in around $23.5 million, which would still put him in the top 10 wide receiver pay. And I think that's kind of where they land. The thing working against Mike is his age, right? He's going to be 31. All these deals that he's trying to compare himself to are either with A, younger players, or B, players who didn't turn 30 yet. The NFL is a what have you done for me lately, but it's more of a what will you do for me in the future type of thing. Teams rarely like to overpay for guys, even if the production's been there. And I think you can kind of look at some contracts around the league of guys who are given X amount of dollars after a certain age, and you could see the drop off. And I think the Bucs need to make sure that they're making a smart decision where they're not going to be, handcuffed with a large contract as soon as the guy starts to drop off. Kind of like in the situation that they're dealing with Shaq. They have to eat $29 million worth of dead money due to restructures, etc. They're going to split it out over the next 2 years, but you don't want to get 3 years down the line in a Mike Evans deal and his production has fallen off. Not saying it will, but if it does, and now you're handicapped with a giant cap hit that you can't get out of, kind of like what the Falcons were dealing with Julio Jones when they gave him that big extension. So I still think it comes in less than 25. I'm steadfast on, somewhere around 23.5, somewhere around there. But we'll ultimately see what happens in free agency and what they're able to do. But I don't see him in another uniform next season. I think he's back with the Bucs.
Yeah, and I've seen some people, WDAE had a guest on, as you alluded to, another Bucks podcaster saying north of 30 million. That's just unrealistic. That's not going to happen. A team really can't maintain a healthy salary cap with giving a guy like Mike that much money. I mean, sure, they could juggle stuff around and become the Saints later in life, but I don't see that happening. And as you alluded to, JC, Mike's age is working against him. He's a big body guy too. Big bodies break down a little easier. Not saying Mike will, but once you hit that wall, it comes hard. We've seen legends like Randy Moss suddenly hit a wall and the production just fell off. So I think Mike still has a strong 2, 3, maybe even 4 years left in him, but we know he's looking for minimum 3 years, if not more than that. So will be interesting to see. JC, we do have another comment. Quick, want to get to you here, then J-Lo, about the first round. What position do you guys see best fit for your first round? And I want to spin it a little bit. The combine, couple days in, has anything in the combine to this point, whether it's something you heard or something you've seen out of any players, change your mind on the Bucks first round and the path they go? I know me and you talked the other day. We both think that they might trade back, or that'd be the best option at the very least. How are you feeling today? Say if the draft was happening in a couple of hours, what would your best guess be on where the Bucks go in round 1, JC?
I still think trade back is the best option. I look at what's going to be available there at 26, and I don't love it. I don't think they need to take an interior lineman in the first round. I really don't. I think this is a good group of guys, and you can get a potential starter in the third round or with your second pick in the second round. So I really think trading back is the best option. I think the meat and bones of this draft is in day 2, that second and third round, where you can get some really solid guys at positions of need too. It's going to drop off in some positions for sure. But I think positions of need, if you're talking about maybe getting a defensive lineman, because there's short depth there. Braden Fisk had a hell of a combine. He's someone, if they traded back into their, 40s, I think they could probably snake him there. Some of the safeties really performed well. Again, guys know I love Jaden Hicks. We'll see about, the wide receivers and the guards and see what they're doing. I still maintain that this crop of edge rushers is not very solid. There's some project guys, and there's some guys that, I think would be good picks later on. But Chop Robinson will not be there at 26 after that, and crazy pro day with all of his projected athleticism and his attributes and everything. He's gone. So I don't think you reach for a guy like Braswell. I don't think you reach for a guy like Trice there. If I had to stay at 26, I'm hoping a guy like Enos Rakestraw's there. We'll see what these wide receivers run, because you got to remember that, say Mike is back, you still need to think about the future. Trey Palmer showed out, but is he, can he be a consistent wide receiver 3? And Chris Godwin's in the last year of his deal. So, and this is a deep draft for both of those classes. I think you can get guys later on, but I think if a guy like Enos Rakestraw's there, who I had in my first mock draft, I think you kind of jump all over him. Because while people say, oh, why would we draft a corner? We have Carlton Davis. He might not be a lock for the roster, could be traded or could be cut, and he's in the final year of his deal. I think when you look at 26, I just don't think the value is there for them. I could see a quarterback maybe being on the board there, maybe a Bo Nix or Michael Penix, and a team like Las Vegas trading up and snaking one of those guys, getting that fifth-year option, and getting a quarterback in the building. So I'm still maintaining you trade down from that pick, but I think cornerback, wide receiver is probably the most likely route there. Premium positions that could be there at that pick that you kind of can't turn away from.
Yeah, and as you alluded to, JC, that fifth-year option could loom huge. So if you do get a guy in round 1, you do potentially have him for year 5. So as nice as that is, if their fit's not there for the Bucks, well, maybe they turn elsewhere, trade back in like a Logan Hall scenario into round 2 instead of round 1. I do like Rakestraw. He was a big reason why Missouri had the success they did this year. I feel like he had a phenomenal year. We do have another comment on Twitter for the great JC, but I want to get to J-Lo quick. J-Lo, thoughts on Bucks, where they go round one quickly if the draft was happening today? What say you, J-Lo?
No, I agree with JC. I would trade back. I wouldn't reach for one of these players that he mentioned. I agree with him 100%. And plus, you can always build up your draft stock because we don't have a fifth rounder. We can use one or another fourth rounder. I mean, I love trading back if the player you want's not there. I wouldn't mind trading back. And honestly, I wouldn't mind the D line again. I mean, there's some good talent there too. Like he mentioned Fisk from Florida State. I like Chris Jenkins from Michigan. You trade back.
Not you being a Gator guy, would you be okay with the FSU guy, or are you one of those that help divide it and say, "Oh, I don't want him"?
I just want to win football games.
Thank you.
I didn't like Jameis at first, but I accepted him. He was on our team, and that's fine, And of course, I would accept a Fisk because he's a talented player. Florida State had talented players on defense. I'm not going to knock them for that. But at the same time, though, I mean, I wouldn't mind, going to get another defensive tackle or another, end to put with that D line because one thing Todd Bowles said he was frustrated was, that our four-man front couldn't get after the quarterback. So you have more firepower, instead of blitzing all the time and going to zone because zone we were terrible at, totally terrible. So go get another big man to go in there and and you pair him up with Kalijah Cansey and Vita Vea. I wouldn't be mad at that if we were to trade back and go get somebody like that. Because like JC said, there's plenty of talent at receivers. There's plenty of talent at the
Deep
guard.
wide receiver. And I feel like, whether it's more of a need or just the fields have been deep, I feel like wide receiver has been a position that's been deep for, the past 2, 3, 4 drafts now. So really look at the Bucks. I mean, not saying he'll ever be a wide receiver 2 or 3 by any means, but Trey Palmer being a 6th-round pick surely is going to be an effective wide receiver on their depth chart moving forward. We saw that against the Eagles in the playoffs and at other times this year as well. I could see the Bucks getting a wider. If Mike is back, which I expect, and our next question's about Mike, I think the Bucks take a wide receiver, but I don't think it's till later on. Like J-Lo said, a lot of good depth there at the wide receiver position in this year's draft. JC, we have a comment, question, concern, whatever you say from Twitter, X, whatever. The great debate held. Gene did say we're going to call it Twitter moving forward, so we'll just allude to it as Twitter to make it easier. But JC, Pops from Twitter comes back and, he has a question. Who are the 2 top teams that would be most interested in Mike Evans? Will it be Team All Elite? Will it be Team Judgment Day? Oh, wait, no, that's wrestling. Sorry about that. Will it be, who the hell knows? But, JC, who do you got joining forces with Mike Evans? If I had to guess, I know the Houston rumors are kind of cooling off, but I would still say probably KC and Houston or Dallas. Those are really the only other 3 teams that I could even think of that Mike would maybe allude to joining, no matter the money or the contract or whatever might be the case.
Yeah, I think Casey's definitely one of them. Mahomes, the success that they've had, I think if you put him on that team, I think you got to put them right up there as Super Bowl favorites. But another team I think people aren't talking about is the Jets. They have a need for a true outside guy opposite Garrett Wilson, and you put him with Aaron Rodgers. They've got a lot of work to do on that offensive line. But if they can get that straightened out in free agency and through the draft, and then you got a guy like Mike Evans there, I think that becomes a good situation where, maybe you kind of put them nearer towards the top of that, situation in the AFC where they're competing, like they were projected to for a Super Bowl title. When you look at the landscape, having a team that's in win now mode with a good quarterback really kind of limits the options. I mean, if you kind of go through the division, there's no one in the NFC South is really there. You look at the AFC South, you're not really looking at any team there. Maybe the Ravens as a dark horse to pair with a guy like who'd they take last year? Flowers, Zay Flowers, not Zay Flowers, the other
Brandon
Flowers. Brandon Flowers. Zay Flowers is the other Flowers. But yeah, I mean, I would think those three teams are the ones that I would kind of circle as spots where Evans would go if he doesn't go to come back to Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and as you alluded to, Jay-Z, Zay Flott, whatever the hell, but Zay and him would be paired beautifully. You did get it right the first time. It is Zay. So the great J.C. Allen, never second guess yourself. But Ravens would be a great, that'd be a great dark horse team. I haven't really heard the Ravens to this point, but that would actually make a lot of sense. But I still think he's back in the Buccaneers uniform at the end of the day for all the reasons that you've laid out in all your pods and articles, and for pretty much the reasons everybody's laid out. J-Lo, quick thoughts on...
Yeah, I'd rather see him in the Chiefs than anything. Like, if he's going to go somewhere,
Yes.
I'd rather see him go to the Chiefs. I don't see the purple on him, and screw the Jets.
Yeah, screw the Jets for sure. J-Lo, thoughts on that? If you had to pick a team or two for Mike Evans that maybe JC hasn't talked about, or maybe he has, please allude, as JC did a great job in sharing his thoughts right there.
Yeah, man. I mean, let's just talk about it. I mean, elite quarterback, right? He's gonna go to the Panthers, right? That's all I keep hearing. He's gonna go to the Panthers. Go run it back with Dave Canales. Put it to rest. I agree with JC. Kansas City's definitely a team that can really have a good shot at poaching him. The only thing with Kansas City I question is with what cap space. They're very limited on cap space. And remember, they still got to pay Chris Jones, who is one of their big playmakers in the playoffs that helped them win football games. And two, they didn't really pay Tyreek Hill 2 years ago, and they won Super Bowls without him. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not saying it's possible. It's not possible, but at the same time, there's a lot of money talking, because if Mike really wants to be a top-paid receiver, like the agent's stating he is, I just don't see the Chiefs dishing out 25 to 30 million for a 31-year-old receiver in order to disrespect to Mike, because we know what Mike can do. Now, Houston, I would still not count them out, even though they said they won't be pursuing them. But that's another team I still keep an eye on, because maybe he wants to go closer to home. And if he wants to go to Dallas and go play with freaking Dak Prescott, who wants to get paid more money, which I don't think he deserves because he's not that good to me and he's not elite to me, I mean, go for it. But to me, I say Houston and Kansas City are the most logical destinations. The Jets, it's too cold up there. And how many years does Rodgers really have left? I mean, how much more he's going to keep playing? I just don't think he's the same player he once was in Green Bay, regardless of the line.
I'd give it 2 years most for Rodgers. I'd give it 2 at most. This year he'll come back off the injury, and, well, sadly, if he gets another big injury, he's probably done, I would say, because nothing against him, but he's not getting younger. JC, real quick, I know you're limited on time, J-Lo. That's why I'm kind of rummaging through here. Me and you could pick up where we left off when the great JC is gone. As WQEE is joining us, El Monito joining us on Facebook as well. Live day in the Facebook chat. JC, quick thoughts here. I know you got to leave shortly, but it came out that Bucks have met, and this guy's kind of caught my eyes as we are talking about the combine. Offensive linemen have a big day tomorrow, and I think this would be a beautiful second or third round pick, as you alluded to. Hey, I don't think we got to go offensive lineman round 1. Cooper Beebe, pardon me if I'm mispronouncing his name, but Cooper Beebe from Kansas State was a tremendous guard at K-State last year. He played really good football. He was an All-American in 2023, first-team All-American in 2022, 2-time Big 12 Offensive Lineman of the Year in 22 and 23, 3-time first-team All-Big 12 member. What are your thoughts on him, JC? Do you think he lingers around for the Bucks to maybe have enough to draft him in round 2? And given the Bucks just drafted Josh Hayes last year from Kansas State, is there maybe another link to the tree of the Bucks going back to the Kansas State tree and getting a guy like Cooper Beebe?
Yeah, I think there's 2 guys they might look at. Cooper Beebe for sure. I think he's more of a third-round guy at this time. Maybe slides into that early 4th area. We'll see, what his combine does. Obviously, his resume, as you spelled it out, speaks to himself. Another Bensonot I think is another guy, tight end, who had a pretty decent showing yesterday at the combine, and is one of those guys who's willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done, blocking, receiving, etc. But I think he's certainly a good fit. The great guys at Peter Report, they've done an outstanding job, as they do every year when they go to the combine, just putting together a informational list of guys who have had informal, formal interviews with the team. And he's one of the guys who had sat down and had a formal interview. I know Scott loves that as a former K-State alum. So he's a guy that I'm intrigued in, as far as, if they wait until that third round. He's in that, grouping, I would think, with Christian Mahogany out of Boston College, and one of my favorites, Mason McCormick out of South Dakota State. Those three guys I think would be good options in round 3. If they wanted to grab someone at the end of round 2, I think they could look at, a guy like Christian Haynes from UConn. There's a couple other guys there that they could look at as well. Former tackle, man, his name is escaping me right now. But there's another former tackle that could be moving. He's from Yale, that could be kicking to the inside, that they could look at in that second round too. They met with some of these guys who are projected to be first round picks. That they could, Troy Fatanu, who's played tackle but expected to kick inside. Graham Barton, who can play guard or center. Jackson Powers Johnson is a huge draft crush right now of many Bucs fans at center. And they could potentially look at him, but I think he'll be off the board before that pick comes around. So Cooper Beeb's the guy who I like in the third round, as well as Christian Mahogany, Mason McCormick. I don't think you could be upset with either of those guys. I think any 3 of those guys would push to start. Obviously, Cooper Beebe, coming from a little bigger program. Boston College has routinely put out offensive linemen. They're known as offensive line U for a while, especially in those interior positions. And then, again, I mentioned him a second ago, but Mason McCormick, a guy who I had in my first draft, light. He loves these small school guys. He went to North Dakota last year. Why not slide down to South Dakota this year and pick up a guy like Mason McCormick, who has 54 consecutive starts at the left guard position, played in 57 games, and one of the better guards to come out of a small school, since a guy like Cody Mock last year, who they took in the second. So there's going to be plenty of interior line options in those first 3 rounds that they could look at. I don't think they could go wrong with any of those guys to utilize at that guard position. Now, kind of like what they did last year with a Matt Filer, I don't think it'd be out of the realm of possibility. I wouldn't look at any of these guys like Graham Glasgow or Jonah Jackson or free agency, Dalton Reisner, or anything like that. But if they wanted to bring in a veteran, so they had that veteran option as well as a rookie option, a guy like John Feliciano played with the 49ers last year. He played really well, ended up grading out as a top 15 guard in the league. And of course, as we know, San Francisco system is where it all started, right? Kind of led them, that Shanahan tree led to Kyle, led to McVay, led to all these guys. So he'd be a system fit as well if they wanted to get, a cheap free agent option to pair with one of those guys if they did wait until like the third round to pick one of them up.
Yeah, and I think real quick, JC, before we send you off, Giants also released today Mark Glowinski. So there's going to be a lot of free agent potential veteran guards out there who could bolster up. But real quick, JC, before you do leave the program, as you get to the millions and millions of things you got to get to do today, we're going to have a little fun. Just give us an outro quick. Where can people keep up with you? I'm sure the hell they know by now. And what in the world of wrestling quickly has caught your eye of late? We'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so definitely follow me at JC Allen NFL on Twitter, X, whatever you're calling it. Check out all of my work over at Sports Illustrated Bucks Game Day. Like I said, I've got that off-season outlook. If you were wondering what's going on in each position, that's up and available, ready for you guys to read. The free agent options I'm working on now. Tight ends came out today, wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks previously, and offensive line. We'll bring it right to you guys right up until free agency, capping off with my mock offseason that I'll have with a full who am I re-signing, who am I extending, who am I cutting, who am I drafting, who am I bringing in as free agents. That will all be out there too, so stay tuned for that. Follow me on the Pirate Parlay, and The Rock acknowledging Roman Reigns is something I was not expecting. Obviously, I'm sure there'll be a little twist here as we move in and weave in and throughout WrestleMania season, and surely after that. But keep an eye on Solo Sikoa. Rock kind of bashed him a little bit in his latest promo on SmackDown, and they've been tending to show him a lot when they're doing these promos. It seems like what was donned as the heir to the tribal throne seems a little bit upset about the Rock's presence in the bloodline. So that should be a fun one to watch going forward.
Yeah, and they're adding another member of the bloodline they just signed. We could talk about that so much more. We got to have JC on the Cleve and Me podcast.
I've been telling you, you've been slacking. It's all you.
We'll get J-Lo in there as well. We'll get half the Buccaneers. But JC, whether it's football, it's wrestling, you have great conversation all over the place. We'd love to have you, welcome you with open arms on the Cleve and Me podcast, where we can talk about all things wrestling, including The Rock acknowledging the tribal chief. But JC, thanks again for a hell of a Saturday, brother. Coming in strong, coming in swinging. J-Lo and I appreciate it here on the Buccaneers and all your efforts, brother. You're one of a kind, and as Dusty Rhodes would say, you're just a great star. You're a tremendous star. So we appreciate you, brother.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great Saturday, great weekend, and we'll link up soon for sure.
Yeah, don't drive yourself too hard there, JC, on your lazy Saturday.
All right, later, guys.
See you, buddy.
Later, JC. That's the great JC Allen there. He's incredible, man. He does great work all over the place, J-Lo, whether it's Game Day SI, as we alluded to, or Sick Media Podcast, as Cleve and Me says, if you smell what Cleve and Me is cooking, I dare the great Wiseman JC to join us, jabronis, if he can handle the crack and that us boys talk weekly. J-Lo, we're going to get you on there as well, but kind of shifting gears back from wrestling to football here real quick. We'll get your wrestling talk and thought as well. But last thoughts on JC's comments as he wrapped up. I think he made a lot of good points with offensive linemen there. I think he brought up tremendous efforts with Pewter Report. And if anybody's wondering what interviews we've done formally, informally of the combine, go on over to Pewter Report and check that out. They do a great job over there. And I guess your thoughts on quick thoughts, wrestling wise, on acknowledging the tribal chief.
It's all about the people's champ, baby. That's what it's all about. I don't care about the bloodline. The people's champ, is acknowledging, whatever his name is, Roman Reigns. But for the most part, I'm excited for what they're putting together. I think it's going to be a fun match to watch. Night one, I think he announced night one, a tag team match, whatever. Because obviously, The Rock ain't ready to wrestle in the ring by himself at the moment. The poor guy's out of breath when he's on the mic. God bless him. He does a million things. But eventually, I think they're going to prepare The Rock, get him in ring shape down the line. And eventually, I think he'll get a one-on-one match with either Roman Reigns or Cody Rhodes or even Seth Rollins. Someone's going to get lucky and get that one-on-one match with him. Because, I think
next year's Mania, him and Reigns do have a date. I think they'll be lined up there. But thoughts on the combine as well, and JC's last little bit of comments.
No, he made a lot of sense. There's plenty of options the Bucks can go as far as guard and center. Because there's going to be some veteran center and guards out there they can always pick up later on after the draft if they don't find what they're looking for in the draft. Or they just go draft one of these young studs, that can play. There's plenty of good options. And so far, this coaching staff has done a great job developing, later round talent or undrafted free agents. I love the McCormick guy at that small school. I think he would be a third or maybe second round pick. Let's go in second round with these small school players. I love Graham Barton from Duke. I think he would be the logical pick at 26.
You've been a big fan of his.
I have. I like him. I love JPJ, but he'll be gone. I think Barton will be gone as well. I can see one of these teams before us, snatching him. I think he's ready to play and be a starter at guard, which would solidify our offensive line. Because Robert Hainsey, to me, I like him better at guard than center. So if we were to go pick up a veteran center or draft one, because there are a couple of centers that catch my eye, like the gentleman from Georgia, Van Pelt. Sorry, I'm butchering his name right now. Also, there's another dude from Michigan. maybe not the sexiest pick, but but when you're on a national championship team and you're able to create holes to run the football, which Michigan was really good at, and that's what Todd Bowles wants. He wants to run the football. So to me, you go good experienced guy in the later rounds, whether it's fifth or sixth, because they're going to trade up. It's going to happen. Light's very favored of doing that in the later rounds. But I'm really excited to see what moves they make. I think the first 3 rounds are going to be so much fun to watch, and then on day 3, when we get together, we'll be able to see all these other players that nobody knows, came out of nowhere, and we get to look at them up and try to talk, bring some clarity to the fans. Some fans don't love the Pitts. For example, I didn't care for Sean Murphy Bunting. I didn't even know who the hell he was when he got drafted.
The great Chippewa.
Bro, when he got drafted, I had no idea who he was. I didn't look him up in the draft combine or anything. I was way off. I was hoping for Greedy Williams, but luckily everything went the way it did. And I looked him up. I'm like, who's Sean Murphy? Who's Sean Bunting? He went by Sean Bunting at first. Then finally, I looked up.
He added the Murphy later, I remember.
Yeah, he did. But anyway, back to JC's point, there's so many options they can go to as far as, in the trenches on the offense and D line. And back to what I was saying about Chris Jenkins, I like that kid from Michigan. I watched him in the combine. He really caught my eye. He would be somebody, if the Bucs couldn't trade out, that would be the sneaky one I would take, because one, his dad played in the NFL for the Panthers for a long time. He was a buck killer.
He was a beast.
He was a very good player, very underrated. And I have no problem taking generational players that, have family that's experienced in the NFL.
Usually a good thing.
Oh, yeah. And I think Chris Jenkins ran like a 4.9, which is impressive for a big man, because that's what you want. You want speed. And I think the only way you're going to improve that pass rush is if you get pressure and you get after the quarterback with a 4-man front. Because if you blitz, you're going to zone. And we suck at zone. That's what killed us last season. And so to me, I feel like if you're going to go in the trenches in the first or second round, you got to go with one of those D linemen. You got to add that if you can't get an edge rusher.
And to me, that means you're hoping for trading back probably.
Yes. I feel like trading back, even if it's at the bottom of the first round, because the Niners, we don't know what's going to happen with Trent Williams, if he's going to come back or not. I haven't heard any confirmation. So if he goes, they're going to need a new tackle, and there's a lot of tackles that are going to be available. Because I flirted with the mock drafts, kind of got an idea, and there's going to be like 2 or 3 tackles available, especially on the left side. I think Oklahoma's got one. I can't remember the name at the moment. Who else? Oklahoma. There's another one too.
And I'm gonna have some fun here. As Elgato813 says, hopefully Mike will resign. Hopefully not, because resigning means he's gone. Remember, it's that time of year. You put a little hyphen in between the resign and resign. But I'm just messing around. We did have JC Allen on to talk about that earlier from Sports Illustrated. Elgato, if you missed it, JC Allen said he thinks he's all but back. He really is confident that Mike is still back. So if you did miss it, feel free to rewind or check out the replay. But we had our guy from Sports Illustrated, the great J.C. Allen, on, reassuring everybody he will be back. And then Cleveland me says, J-Lo looking like KO with the hat on. That's awesome right there. Kevin Owens shout out. Gotta love KO fight anyone. J-Lo, today is quarterback's day at the Combine. And it's been rumored that the Bucs have met with they know their spot, right? They know they're not going to be in, familiar territory with the likes of a Jaden Daniels or Drake May or Caleb Williams. So they've been interviewing some secondary quarterback options. I think they conducted 4 interviews to this point with quarterbacks, including J.J. McCarthy, including Spencer Rattler, who's intriguing in the mid to late rounds, and including Michael Pratt, who's included in the mid to late rounds. He's had a great revival at the Green Wave of, Tulane. He's been their main revival point, has been quarterback Pratt. And then I believe they met with one other lesser projected quarterback. I'm forgetting if it's, I think it might have been Michael Penix. I know they've had some interest in Penix. I don't know if they've necessarily met with him, but Bruce Arians said he's loving what Penix brings to the table. So it seems like, J-Lo, today could be a big day for the Bucs combine-wise. They could scout these guys, and that would kind of make sense to me we've talked about it before, and we've both been saying, me and you have said either day 3 quarterback, probably day 3 quarterback, which means rounds 4 through 7. I think that would make all the sense in the world. Say they get Baker back. Say Wolford goes to Atlanta. I'm thinking Wolford's gone. I know the Bucs really like Wolford, but I think if we pay Baker to come back, we still have Trask. He's not going to go anywhere. I highly doubt, unless Wolford might be cool with the practice squad role, which I doubt. I doubt we retain him. So I think that means QB3 should either. I don't think McCarthy lasts that long, and I don't think Bucs take him in the first round unless, God forbid, Baker leaves. But that's a whole nother can of worms. So between the Pratts and Rattlers and Michael Penixes of the world, J-Lo, that would be a great way to kind of dig a QB3 in for this year. Right, you use Rattler or Pratt as QB3. Then when Trask leaves next year, because you're not going to resign him, you really, unless he takes 1 year vet minimum, which he won't do because he's going to want to find out if he has any sort of a career path down there. So you take a QB late this year, and you kind of reciprocate what you had with Trask being a backup for these 4 years. You have a cheap backup rookie quarterback option who, God forbid, if option 1 goes down, say it's Baker, say it's another veteran, you kind of could come in, see what they bring to the table. Maybe it's a spark. Maybe it's a Russell Wilson type. Maybe, you never know, Tom Brady, Brock Purdy type. I think that's a realistic scenario where the Bucs do take a quarterback this year. Today's going to be a big day, J-Lo, as it's quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers starting right now. Bucs are going to be all over these QBs. What say you?
Agreed. And plus, a little of the running backs. And plus, and you said receivers too, right? Receivers, running backs, and quarterbacks are working on today. There's another quarterback I would not sleep on, and it wouldn't surprise me if we take him like in the 6th or 7th round. And that's Kentucky quarterback Devin. I can't remember the last name top of my head right now, but I think familiarity with Liam Cohen, who coached him last year, that would be an intriguing pick. Because he was a really high transfer prospect a year ago when he transferred to Kentucky from
Devin Leary you're talking about, right?
Devin Leary, thank you, sir. Devin Leary, that's another one I would keep an eye on. I don't think he's going to be a great starting quarterback, but he could be a quarterback.
He did meet with the Bucs informally, Devin Leary.
That's the other one I think we're missing there. But him as well, I keep a close eye on. Spencer Rattler is intriguing to me, because he was a very talented, recruit for Oklahoma. Then he got beat up by Caleb Williams, who's going to be the 1 overall pick, obviously. And then he went to South Carolina and showed some flashes. So I think he'd be somebody I would look out for in like the 4th or 5th round.
And it's interesting. I'm looking at a graphic from 2022 saying if the 2023 draft were held today, blah, blah, blah. And it actually had your boy Larry going to the Bucs way back then. So maybe that's a possibility this year. And with the Liam Cohen connection, that one could be very intriguing as well.
It would be very intriguing. I'm not saying he's going to come in here and be the future, but at least he can come in and be familiar with the system that Liam Cohen's going to bring in. And he'd be a capable number 3 to back up in the next couple seasons, especially if Baker comes back. He'd be a good backup for Baker. Because like you said, Trask, I don't see resigning on a vet minimum because he's want to go out there and see what market he has and has a chance to start. But as far as Devin Leary, I like him. I like Spencer Rattler.
Rattler, Pops just wrote in as well. Rattler intrigues him. I think Rattler's intriguing because A, he's a late pick now. At one point he was maybe a Heisman winner. Maybe he was supposed to be a first round pick. And B, J-Lo, he's one of those guys that, it's like a Sean Clifford. It's like a Brock Purdy where, hey, these guys have had so much experience at college. If you did need him to jump in right away, your team's not a dead fish out of water just yet. And, J-Lo, I want to get to your thing as running backs are today. You haven't even brought him up yet on Combine Saturday's special show, a running back that has caught your eyes. Get into him a little bit as well.
Oh, Ray Davis. He's my favorite pick. I love that kid. The kid's very flashy. I mean, he's got a burst. I watched this kid a couple games last season. Of course, he butchered my Gators. That's when I really got to know him very well. And I was like, who the hell is this guy? So then out of curiosity, I watched another game. I was like, wow, this kid can really ball. And he's somebody I think can sneak into the third or fourth round to where it wouldn't surprise me if Light went with a running back. To me, he'd be a way better running back. I mean, I like him over Chase Edmonds at this point. Not to pick on Chase Edmonds. I think he was a good contributor.
I
But
like Edmonds as a RB3, but not really an
yeah,
RB2, right?
no. I think Ray Davis you plug in, on third and short or second and short, kind of get that first down run. And then another back I want to throw out there is Frank Gore Jr. I like
He met
that
with
kid.
the 49ers, ironically enough.
He did.
And he's played a little quarterback in his college career as well.
Yes, I think he's another guy to keep an eye out on. I hope he gets drafted. Maybe not here, but hopefully a team will take a chance and give him an opportunity. Because I think he can show flashes, and it wouldn't surprise me if a team like the Niners take him later on in the draft because of Frank Gore. Also, receiver wise, Braden Rice, the son of Jerry Rice, he's another one I like, who can probably go in the second or third round, show some flashes. I mean, this is going to be probably the most watched combine today between the quarterbacks, running backs, and receivers.
Today and tomorrow are going to be electric.
Yeah.
And tomorrow's tight ends and offensive linemen, which is going to be, and I think special teams tomorrow as well. So tomorrow you get O linemen, tight ends, special teams, which is always really fun, I think so. And J-Lo, I kind of want to, this is kind of cool. So Frank Gore Jr., intriguing prospect. And if I had to personally pick for the Bucs route to go at running back, I'd retain, obviously, I'm tired of the haters. You give Rachaad White the keys. You say, this is your running back room. You're not even a little bit threatened. Say if we don't go the free agent route at running back, which I hope we don't. I hope we do bring back Chase Edmonds, but as RB3, not RB2. And then I hope we bring in Sean Tucker and Pat Laird to compete for RB4, to compete for the practice squad. Who wants to be here? UDFA Sean Tucker disappointed last year, or long NFL veteran Pat Laird. And Laird has been us with 3-4 years now, so he's very familiar. So that's how I want to handle RB3, RB4, RB1. RB2, we don't have a ton of money. If we have money, maybe consider an A.J. Dillon, who probably won't be back with the Packers. J.C. Allen said possible options for the Bucs. He would complement Rachaad really well. But Frank Gore Jr. is really intriguing. And his trickiness is cool, too. In his collegiate career, J-Lo, he actually went, he attempted 33 passes. He completed 17 of those passes for 368 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 1 interception. That's a running back having those numbers. I know it's Southern Miss and whatnot, but can you imagine what that would bring to Liam Cohen's playbook as well? Say if your running back crush is gone, say if Frank Gore is still there somehow, I think he might go early. Who knows? Not early, but you never know where he might go, being an NFL alumni running back son as well. But Frank Gore Jr. is a really intriguing one, J-Lo. I'm glad you brought him up.
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite parts is looking at some of these players, especially ones that are son of alumni, like Frank Gore, Jerry Rice. I mean, it's very intriguing.
And we've been seeing it more and more the past couple of years, right? Jerry
Yes.
Porter Jr., Asante Samuel's son, a couple others out there as well that have really just came in, taken the league by storm, and never looked back.
Antoine Winfield Jr.
Yep.
His dad was a stud. I watched his dad over the years. So
he was incredible.
Oh my God. When he was
and that's why I've always said too, Antoine Winfield, he gets the best of both worlds. He's like a mini Antoine Winfield Sr. and Rondé Barber hybrid. He's like a mix.
Agreed. I mean, I just remember Winfield a long time ago when he was a free agent, when he left the Bills. And I was like, oh my God, go pick this guy up immediately. But of course, it didn't happen. He ended up going to Minnesota, I think. Yeah, he went to Minnesota.
Yep.
And he was really successful over there as far as that comes. And he got to play with Brett Favre. I remember the year the Saints, by the way, fuck them. End up
the Aints.
The Vikings.
Fuck the Saints.
Yeah, long story short, he had a really great career. So I'm always behind these players that have familiarity with the alums, like as their fathers or uncles and stuff like that. But that's something to keep an eye out on is Frank Gore Jr. I think he's going to climb some boards as far as like maybe 4th or 5th round pick. I think he'll definitely get picked up. Ray Davis could definitely climb up. Maybe hit the 3rd instead of the 4th or 5th because they got projected going 4th or 5th. I think this dude's way better than that. I think he could be a 3rd rounder easily. Like I said, there's a running back world. And here's another name to keep out in free agency that caught my eye is Antonio Gibson from the Commanders. He's shown some flashes. I'm not saying we're going to get him, but he's another guy I kind of liked a little bit as far as the receiving. And plus, he's got pretty good agility, in my opinion. He'll be available. And he probably won't be picked up maybe day 1 or 2, but maybe day 3 of free agency. And whoever gets him, I think he'll be
He's a good pass catching back.
better. I mean, yes. I mean, I use him a lot in fantasy football, and he got me a lot of points as far as that goes. That's one way of putting it when it comes to him. He is a good pass catching back that will help you out at the end of the day. But I think we're going to go and draft with another running back and probably bring back Chase Edmonds because of familiarity with the offense. And the only thing with Chase Edmonds is I just hope he stays healthy. If he stays healthy, then I think he'll be a big contributor on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and we're going to go over the combine schedule for this Saturday, this Sunday, and then Monday. There's 3 days left of the combine. So we're going to briefly over that before we give our final words and head out of here. As the combine is underway now on NFL Network, so J-Lo and I want to dig our teeth into that and see who pops out to us today. But on this Saturday, you have a lot going on. Defensive backs and tight ends go in bench press, go in broadcast interviews, and then they depart Indy today. So your D-backs and tight ends do bench press and interviews today, and then they are out of the building. So they get their last fix in today. Then on the field today, you get measurements and on-field workouts, like we said, QB, running back, and wide receiver. And then from O-line, punt and kicker, and special teamers, you get today on exams, media interviews, and team interviews. And then tomorrow on Sunday, you get bench press and departure from running backs, quarterbacks, and wideouts. Then you get the measurements and on-field stuff tomorrow from O-line, punters, kickers, and special teamers. Then on Monday, you get the bench press and departures from the O-linemen, punters, kickers, and special teamers. So still 3 key days left of the combine, J-Lo. A lot of people thinking on Sunday. Thoughts real quick, and I may have misspoke earlier. I lumped tight end in with the O-lineman. I misspoke. It's strictly O-lineman and special teamers. But what catches your eyes more, today, tomorrow, or Monday? And kind of just sum up your thoughts on the combine as well in general.
I think today is the day. I'm definitely excited to see the quarterback, running back, and receivers. To me, it's one of the main popular positions as far as the combine. I think today would be a big day, and not to take away from the linemen tomorrow. I think that'll be fun to watch the linemen. I was hoping to see tight end Brock Bowers participate, but he won't be, unfortunately. Even though he's going to be going top 10 probably, but he's been one of my favorites for a long time, the last couple of years, for the most part. But the only thing that disappoints with the quarterbacks, is you're not going to see Caleb Williams.
Ray Davis is about to run.
Oh, boy, please tell me what he runs.
40-yard time. 4.453 for Ray Davis his first time.
I wouldn't even sweat that.
40-yard times are overlooked, in my opinion.
I agree. It's all about, vision, be able to see the open hole for the blocks, and that's what he's known for. If you watch his highlight tape from Kentucky, he knows how to find the holes, break through. And that's another thing Kentucky didn't get a lot of credit for, is that they had a pretty dang good offensive line that knew how to open holes for the running back. And that's what I love about Liam Cohen coming here. I think he's going to be able to open holes for Rashad White or whoever RB2 is to get the ball moving. And then you take less pressure off Baker, on trying to run for his life. The man did take a beating last year. There are times where we thought he was going to be out for a while when some of his little minor, boo-boos. But I do love what's going to go on today. You'll get to see what's his name, J.J. McCarthy. I think he's a dark horse at quarterback. Championship experience.
And I think a dark horse for the Bucks too, running back wise, Audric Estime, Notre Dame. I could see around 7 selection there maybe. But quick thoughts, J-Lo, before we wrap up, give our schedule final word. Keep going with McCarthy and just put a bow on today and your combine thoughts.
Yeah, so on McCarthy, I think he's a very dark horse. It wouldn't have surprised me if a team like the Broncos take him, or if Atlanta can't trade up or can't trade for Justin Fields. Maybe as high as 8, I have him going. If he were, if the Falcons were to fail to go out there to get Baker, to trade for Fields, I could see him going to Atlanta. And that's another thing. I mean, a team like Denver or Vegas could trade up in the top 10 to get J.J. McCarthy. Because the only reason why people question him because Michigan ran the ball a lot, and they don't know how McCarthy does under pressure throwing the football. So that's my end on J.J. McCarthy. And as far as today, just enjoy it. Enjoy all these young players going out there, showing their talents. And then by the time the weekend's over, we can really get down to what's best for the Bucks as far as, that time comes. So that's one way of looking at the combine. Because to me, I feel like the Bucks do better at drafting lately and developing players and go pick up a big-time free agent. Besides Tom Brady, Gronk, the big names, but you get what I mean.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing as well. If we do have big free agents leave, that means we get a hell of a lot more money. That means we get comp draft picks as well. But all in all, putting a bow on the combine, J-Lo talked about today. I'll talk about tomorrow and Monday. Tomorrow and Monday are going to be big days for the Bucks and for followers of the Bucks. We know offensive linemen, whether it's guard or center. I don't think Hainsey's too bad at center. I would try and repair that left guard, though. Really look at some of these younger guys. Tomorrow you'll get a chance to look at guard positions on the field, get their examining in, and then Monday you get to see their bench press and their strengths and all that stuff. So I think Sunday and Monday are huge days for Jason Light and co. Getting a look at O-linemen. And let's not forget, Chase McLaughlin's a free agent as well. He could get a lot of money out there. JC Allen and I talked about it on the Parlay podcast. He could reset the kickers market. I'm not sure Jason Light would want to give $5-6 million a year to a kicker, and that's might be a thing. So maybe tomorrow's a big day for Jason Light to pay attention to kickers as well. We've seen him draft a couple of kickers now. Roberto Aguayo, Matt Gay. Some people say that might draw him away. We've seen him draft Jake Camarda. So he likes drafting special teamers. We might see that out of Jason Light here as well, as Josh Hayes was more of a special teams pick too, as he got one all-pro vote for special team actually. So I think tomorrow, Monday are underrated days for the Bucks front office between offensive line and punter, kicker, and special teamers. And I think between today and tomorrow, Jason Light is all hands on deck, really digging into this combine like J-Lo and I are going to be doing, as well as Dylan Johnson from Washington is running his 40 right now. He got a 4.68 there. We've seen him in the championship game. So I've heard Dan Patrick and them talk about it as well. The 40, don't put too much stock into it. Some guys that have purely been drafted off the 40-yard dash have dropped like a rock. Their NFL careers ended very quickly. Dre Archer comes to mind. Remember Jeff Demps, the Bucks track star from Florida, comes to mind. A lot of these quicksters, speedsters, they just don't have room in the NFL. Laquan Treadwell comes to mind, wide receiver as well. So I wouldn't look too much into the 40. I put more stock into the bench press than the 40-yard dash if I had to pick one of the two personally. But if you guys are wondering, hey, what's the outlook of the Buccaneers like? I know it was a little jumbled this week again. When there's special things going on like the combine, like free agency, like schedule release, like NFL draft, we're going to be giving you some specials. So this won't be the end of the Saturdays. I guarantee you that, especially for the draft and maybe for other stuff as well. But we should be back with you guys Monday and Thursday. Regular scheduled programming this week is, a little bit of a down week. Franchise tag deadline is Tuesday. That's pretty much the only thing of notoriety this week. Of course, you'll hear some maybe potential trades in the works. You got the Bears looking to trade Fields, a couple other veterans maybe on the move. But Monday and Thursday, probably about 6:30 Eastern time each, is the Buccaneers' probable schedule for the week. And Dylan LaBay from New Hampshire is about to run in his combine 40-yard dash running back right now as well. J-Lo, thoughts on the program today? It was a fun one. Me, you, and JC Allen. A lot of great guests tuned in on Facebook, YouTube, and other outlets, Twitter as well. Kind of put a bow on today. Final word, final thoughts, whether it's the combine, the show, the Bucks in general. What say you, brother?
No, great. It was a great show. Talking about prospects, talking about what moves could be made, kind of putting together like a little battle plan a little bit there as far as that goes. And having JC on was a real treat. He's a very knowledgeable gentleman who knows the biz and knows how to do pods. I mean, he's truly a hidden gem, and I'm glad we had him on to give us some perspective. As far as Mike goes, I'm not stressing it. Let him go out there, see what he can get. But I think at the end of the day, he'll end up being back as a Buck. It all starts with Baker. The moment you resign Baker, that's where it all begins. Because I think the main focus right now is to resign Baker, who obviously will be our franchise quarterback for about at least 3 or 4 seasons, depending on what happens. And then the domino effect will fall. Mike will resign, Levante David, and obviously the franchise tag will be tagged on Antoine Winfield Jr. Or you never know, Mike can pull it all off, and we'll have a potential Buck parade. But at the end of the day, I'm not stressing on Mike at all. He wants to be here. We want him here. Let him go out there, get an idea how much he can really make, and then bring it back, and we'll pay him. And then as far as
it's happened before, as we mentioned multiple times on this pod, I think 5-6 examples we brought up.
And just remember, one thing I do want to throw out there, as me being a big Mike Evans fan, as we all are, it's not the end of the world if he ends up leaving. If he leaves, if he does,
we get a comp pick and we get a lot of money.
Comp pick, a lot more money, flexibility. Maybe we can go get a big-time pass rusher to go tag team with Diaby, or we can go another route. I mean, there's just so many options you can go for because there's other talent out there. Not that they're big like Mike Evans, but they can be contributors to the offensive scheme. But at the end of the day, I don't see Mike going anywhere. He'll be back along with Baker. You build the continuity, add some key pieces to the O-line, and then to the D-line. I really think D-line, tag teaming with Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey is going to be a big one, in my opinion. I'm still not sold on Logan Hall. To me, he's like JTS, a role player, come in.
I love Logan. I know he's got ways to go.
Logan, but to me, he's just not a starting type guy to me. But maybe he'll prove me wrong. I've been proven wrong. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. But there's nothing wrong with not having enough, D linemen, edge rushers in there, because you gotta get pressure on the quarterback. You gotta get after the quarterback. Because that was our biggest weakness on defense, is that we could not get after the quarterback in the playoffs as much. I mean, we got after Jalen Hurts, but then when we go play Detroit, it's like we laid down and we couldn't stop them. So my thing is, you got to get strong in the trenches, and the only way you're going to do that is if you go get another big-time guy like a Chris Jenkins or a Fisk from Florida State, who I think would be a big-time contributor. I mean, there's just so much talent in the draft to where Light can do so many things to where we won't have to spend a lot of money. And at the end of the day, go ahead.
I think Scott Reynolds at Pewter Report came out with a couple comments just now regarding the Mike Evans situation, and he said while the Bucks may not necessarily be considered a Super Bowl contender in 2024 right now, they do have an easier path to the playoffs than some other teams playing in the downtrodden NFC South, and it should help the Bucks cause that they were tied with the Lions heading into the fourth quarter in the NFC divisional round. The Bucks could be considered a dark horse, but at this moment, they're closer than most teams to winning another championship, especially if they can re-sign Evans, Mayfield, and a few others. And Scott Reynolds also says because Evans grew up in nearby Galveston, Texas, and went to school at A&M, there was some concern that Evans might be tempted to play with hometown team, but C.J. Stroud entering just his second year, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and Texans seemed to pass. This could all be good news for the Bucs. So, he's staying optimistic, Scott Reynolds, J-Lo, and I guess my final word here will be don't fall into the trap, Bucs fans. You have from now until a week from Monday for just the legal tampering period to open. Then you have a week and a half until Wednesday where people can re-sign. You're going to be hearing the craziest of crazy rumors from now until Monday. Not this Monday, but next Monday when the legal tampering period opens. All I can say is be careful who you trust. Be careful what you read on Twitter. It's not all going to be true. And a lot of smoke screens are happening right now. A lot of agent speak is happening right now. Just something that you get accustomed to. The older you become, the more mature of a fan you become. I remember when I was young, I was always scared too. I wanted the biggest of guys too. But now as you realize and grow older, you realize a lot more realities. And reality is Mike Evans is 95% chance back in a Bucs uniform come the fall of 2024. J-Lo, any last word for the program before we jump on out of here for this Saturday?
God bless. Enjoy your Saturday, the weekend, people that watch the combine. Or if not, you're getting out of the house, go enjoy the weekend. It's nice. It's over here in the Florida area. I don't know how it is over near your area, Tones, but like I said, you know, we're getting closer and closer to another season of football, one day at a time.
The weather's been Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde over here, brother. Just on Monday, it was like 21, 22 degrees out. Then, you know, a couple days later, it jumped to like 73 degrees. And then Thursday and Friday fell to like 30 degrees. And now today it's going to get back up to like 60 degrees. Tomorrow's going to be 70 degrees. Tuesday, it's going to be back to upper 40s. It's like, holy crap, what the hell's going on here? So we're kind of in, you know, a little bit of a weather warp right now, brother, but still a nice day out here. I'm going to enjoy it, but I'm going to, you know, keep doing some Buccaneers work. I'm continuing to work on our new intro. I'm going to hopefully get this episode released here shortly to the Apple, Spotify, Googles of the world. So I'm going to be doing some Buccaneers work today and tomorrow and all of that great stuff. J-Lo, as Gene Deckeroff would say, re-sign Mike, re-sign Winfield, touchdown Tampa Bay, Winfield Evans, you are ridiculous. Baker Mayfield, you are ridiculous. But enjoy it, brother. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the rest of the combine. We shouldn't be back until Monday, but you never know if there's breaking news or something that flares up tomorrow with the combine going on. We would be back just in case. But J-Lo, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your Saturday, brother. And if I don't see you till Monday, be safe, my man.
You as well, man. Take care, man. God bless. Go Bucs.
Yeah, God bless. Be safe. And touchdown, Tampa Bay. Team Tampa Bay, baby. Woo! 813. Let's fucking go. Ric Flair in this bitch. Drip it out. J-Lo, Tampa Tones, and we were joined by the great JC Allen as well. It's been a pleasure on the Saturday special of the NFL Combine. Thanks again for joining us. God bless and peace out. Go Bucs. Fire the damn cannons. Game on Sunday, man. I know you're nervous for the Rams, but you got to be a little enthusiastic after being there.
Bro, that game atmosphere was ridiculous. The energy, the electricity. That place was rocking. Anyone was there, and a lot of the Super Buck fans were there too. Mean Buck.
Tampa Tones. We are joined by Lead Goon tonight, host of the Pat and Aaron Show of WDAE, Pat Donovan. And it sounds like Stunna is bumbling a little bit. Going to put him on mute for a second until that gets a little cleared. But we're joined by Pat
It looks like
Donovan.
Stunna's hanging out with Cheech and Chong in a car with the windows up or something over there.
It does look like we got a little...
No, my camera's broke.